News 12 Long Island's Andrew Enger is in Texas. Today he was with some Long Islanders on the New York City Urban Search and Rescue Task Force.
1, 2, 3, go.
They brought boats, specialized equipment, and supplies all the way from New York to help those stranded by Hurricane Harvey's floodwaters.
You want to stay or do you want to leave?
Members of the New York City Urban Search and Rescue Task Force fanned out through Sweeney, Texas, about 70 miles south of Houston. The waters here flooding many homes and stranding some.
There's a whole subdivision down there, at least 13 or 14 homes that everybody's still in.
The task force is made up of highly trained members of the NYPD, FDNY, and EMS. And Kenneth Hunter was glad to see them.
Never in my wildest dream I imagined I was raised up like this.
His 64-year-old mother was having breathing problems after being stuck in their home without electricity for 5 days and the water rising. He called for help, not knowing it would come from a team of New Yorkers.
Beautiful, it's beautiful. I highly appreciate it, man. I highly appreciate it.
Kind of not the accent you expected when they knocked on your door, right?
Yeah, yes, sir.
But not everyone was so pleased to see the rescuers.
Okay, we'll leave.
Now, in some cases, homeowners here don't want to go and would prefer to shelter in place, so the task force is moving on.
We can't make them leave, but we can certainly offer assistance and see if they want to go.
Though the water conditions were calm this day, in other parts of Sweeney on Wednesday, fast-moving waters trapped a farmer in his tractor. The task force deployed their boats and was able to rescue the man.
His only concern was how much it was going to cost him. We said, don't worry, for free on New York, don't worry.
In Sweeney, Texas, Andrew Enger, News 12.
It's 5 a.m. at the Marriott Hotel in New York City. Chris Levy has a big day ahead of him. He's getting ready for the race of a lifetime. But he says this is not a race he needs to win. It's one that will instead show his endurance despite his disability. Levy, a wounded military vet from Holbrook, will test his physical limits as he walks 3 miles through the Brooklyn Battery Tunnel in what's known as the Tunnel to Towers Run. 2,400 West Point cadets line the route. As they run through the tunnel, the cheering gets louder.
You can't explain the feeling of like seeing them run by and them chanting in unison, and it's it's awesome.
This is the same tunnel that determined New York City firefighter Steven Siller raced through with 60 pounds of gear on his back and gave his life trying to save others on 9/11. Levy followed a similar call to duty, but his journey led him to the battlefield. In March of 2008, the Army corporal lost both his legs when a pipe bomb blew up near his Humvee in Iraq.
I figured as long as I fought to stay alive, they would do everything they could to keep me alive.
After years of rehab, Chris is now one of thousands who are following Siller's footsteps through the tunnel.
Way to go, well done, nice job.
In what could be the most emotional part of the race is when Chris comes out of the tunnel. Here he's greeted by first responders who wear the pictures of the 343 fallen firefighters who lost their lives on 9/11. And when it's hard for Chris to push through, it's the cheers and the applause he gets along the way that get him through this.
Nice job.
As Chris nears the finish line,
Awesome job. Thank you for being here.
he says it's certainly not the end of his mission to remember the sacrifices made by first responders on 9/11. Antoinette Biordi, News 12, Long Island.
Donald Trump himself is weighing in on his performance tonight. Here's what he had to say to reporters in Spin Alley.
Mr. Trump, why do you think you won tonight? Why do you think you won tonight?
Well, I think we got the point across. It's about making America great again, and I think we got the point across. I'm very happy about the way it worked out. I think we did very well. I'm very happy.
And how did your opponent do?
It's the same talk. It's always talk. Nothing happens. She's been there for years. Nothing's happening.
Well, prison time for former state Senate Majority Leader Dean Skelos and his son Adam. News 12 Long Island's Andrew Enger was in the courtroom when the two were sentenced for corruption.
Get out of the way! Get out of the way!
Former State Senator Dean Skelos from Rockville Center had no comment for reporters as he was whisked away moments after being sentenced to 5 years behind bars on corruption and bribery charges. Skelos was found guilty in December of using his powerful political influence to get his son Adam hundreds of thousands of dollars in contracts and no-show jobs. Moments later, Adam was sentenced to 6.5 years in prison.
Any comment, Adam, that you got a longer sentence than your dad? Any comment?
During sentencing, U.S. District Judge Kimball Wood said the Skelos' actions did incalculable damage to New Yorkers' trust in government officials. Dean Skelos apologized to the court, saying, "Somewhere my judgment became clouded. Somewhere I let things go off the rails." Through sobs, Adam Skelos begged for mercy for his father, saying that he was to blame for the crimes. He said, "I am deeply regretful for what I have done, and I want to be a better person." Last week, former State Assembly leader Sheldon Silver was sentenced to 12 years behind bars on corruption charges. U.S. Attorney Preet Bharara said in a statement to News 12, the nearly simultaneous convictions of Sheldon Silver and Dean Skelos, whose corruption crimes were laid bare during fair and public trials, have no precedent. And while Silver and Skelos deserve their prison sentences, the people of New York deserve better. State government watchdog groups outside court agreed, saying the guilty verdicts send a message to future politicians who may try to use their office for personal gain.
The days of using your public office for private gain should be over. If you do that, you face time in the slammer.
At 5 and 6.5 years behind bars, Dean and Adam Skelos only received a fraction of the prison time that prosecutors wanted. They could have faced 12 to 15 years behind bars. Now, Dean Skelos will have to pay a $500,000 fine, and he and his son will also have to forfeit over $300,000 of illegally gotten money. A date for their surrender has yet to be set. We're live outside federal court in Lower Manhattan. Andrew Enger, News 12, Long Island. Stone, Colleen.
Fired up to see the Isles return to the old barn. The Isles playing their first game at the Coliseum since April 25th of 2015. It was a grand homecoming. News 12's Kevin Marr there to take it all in, and he's got a lot of those fans hanging out there with him today. Kev?
Yeah, Kev, they're still here. We got the band back together. Yeah, we got Islander fans. Yeah. We have the Islanders. We had the Coliseum. And I heard this chant. I've heard this one before. Let's go Islanders! And for the first time ever, we heard this one. Bring them back! Bring them back! Bring them back! Bring them back!
Welcome back, Islanders! We love our team. We want them home.
Today, the fans made that loud and clear.
Yes, yes, yes!
Who says he can't go home? John Bon Jovi said it, and now we're all saying it!
Making the new Coliseum feel like the old barn again.
We've waited 2 years for this day. Hockey lives on Long Island.
It just feels like I'm a kid again. I'm going to tell you, it feels like lipstick on a pig.
That's because the Islanders were back only for a day, greeted by a sold-out crowd who wants them out of the Barclays Center and back on Long Island for good.
Brooklyn doesn't compare to this, you know? And this is something we all want as fans, and we want them back here.
To have them back today means everything to us.
What's the message maybe these fans are sending to the NHL by packing this place on a lazy Sunday?
Bring the Islanders back where they belong, on Long Island.
But the NHL says that's never going to happen, and there are no more games scheduled at the Coliseum after today. So Mike from Malvern figured if you can't bring him back, just don't let him leave.
There's no reason that this team should ever have left here. There's no reason that they should ever leave again. This is their home. Listen to the crowd. You know it. You know this is our home. Everybody knows this is our home. No more baloney. Let us come home and stay there.
Trades, self-employed. Unfortunately, Mike from Malvern was unsuccessful. The Islanders did leave the building. Maybe one day they'll be back. The chance maybe they work, and if that doesn't work, look at Christopher. Christopher, how much do you want the Islanders back? Give him puppy dog eyes. Oh, if the NHL doesn't bite on that, I don't know what they're biting on. Good job, everybody. Let's go Islanders for the rest of the season. In Uniondale, Kevin Marr, News 12, Long Island.
She inspired generations of musicians, and tonight her students came out to say thanks. Dr. Melinda Edwards. News 12's Rich Barabi was on the story, and it's a story you'll see only on 12.
Hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah.
On a Saturday night in Mineola, Dr. Melinda Edwards leads her choir.
Art and music are what make us human.
Say something
These are not professional singers, at least not most of them. They are students. These adults are just some of the children that Dr. Edwards taught and inspired from the mid-1960s to the mid-90s as the chorus teacher at Baldwin High School.
She opened up my love of music. I'm a musician now.
Her surprise party this evening turned into a concert, a reunion too, a love fest of sorts for a retired teacher who knew she had had an impact, but not like this.
There has never been a better choir director.
It's just overwhelming. I mean, it just brought tears to my eyes. I can't believe how many of my wonderful students showed up for this.
Over 100 of her former students traveled from more than 10 states to be here. They say she taught them how to hit the high note in music and in life.
Lessons about self-discipline and responsibility and always trying to strive for your best.
Every day I use what she taught me, every day.
The lessons have endured, and so has the music.
I don't have words for it. It's really emotional for me.
The folks here say this proves one thing: great teachers and great music can make all the difference. In Mineola, Rich Barabi, News 12, Long Island.
We were all over the island today monitoring the road conditions. Our last stop here in Farmingdale, and as you can see, the first snowfall of the season didn't stop some people from coming out this Saturday night.
We had plans tonight, we didn't cancel them.
Joanne Ryan and her husband Tom are just some of the many people who decided to head to Main Street in Farmingdale. She says she wasn't worried about getting behind the wheel.
We've been around all day. We were driving around. It was fine.
Denise Vachon and her son decided to venture out in the snow to satisfy an ice cream craving.
We're coming out for Sundays tonight.
Even though it's snowing?
It's okay. What a better night.
Over in Suffolk, the snow didn't stop some people from driving around either. Brian and Lenora Flaherty of Ronkonkoma were prepared for the snow. They hit the streets in this truck. Where are you headed?
Cut down a Christmas tree. Heading out east.
So the snow didn't stop you from getting your Christmas tree today?
No, not at all.
I think it made it more
Just made it better.
Suffolk officials say they were prepared for the weather as well. The county has nearly 100 pieces of highway snow removal equipment out on the roads and about 17,000 tons of salt on hand. Suffolk's Police Chief Stuart Cameron says the department is equipped with special vehicles, including SUVs and Humvees.
Some of our highway patrol sector cars are now larger SUVs that are not only all-wheel drive, they have the capability going into four-wheel drive and four-wheel drive low.
Ma'am, I'm still on the line. And Chief Cameron says Suffolk's Communications Center is ready to facilitate any weather-related 911 calls.
Some of the things we could expect as the weather unfolds is obviously additional motor vehicle crashes. And then as people start to go out and clear the snow, there could be 80 cases, people getting hurt from shoveling, people having cardiac events. And, you know, we do occasionally have incident with snow blowers.
Back in Farmingdale, Vachon offers this advice for anyone thinking of hitting the roads on this snowy Saturday.
Drive careful, be safe, enjoy your families, and enjoy what's around you.
And maybe even get some ice cream.
Mm-hmm. It's a great night to get ice cream.
Now, I called NASA and Suffolk Police, and at last check, officials with both departments say police have not responded to any significant weather-related accidents. Reporting in Farmingdale, I'm Talia Kaplan, News 12, Long Island.
You're standing in history, and that's one of the things that we really wanted to bring back.
John and Nick DeVito opened Charlotte's Speakeasy on Main Street in Farmingdale this past November. They hope to make the space into the hotspot it was back in the 1920s.
The previous village historian had paperwork that showed that it was a ladies' clothing store upstairs and a speakeasy downstairs, somewhere in the 1920s.
Speakeasies were the illegal joints during the times of 1920s prohibition. That was when alcohol was off limits in the U.S. The DeVito brothers owned Charlotte's Frozen Yogurt on the main level, but they reopened the 1920s speakeasy in the cellar after finding clues about the building's past. like this hidden escape route.
Do you realize you're standing where people were hiding out almost 100 years ago from the cops and looking to that back door and hoping that they weren't going to see the cops come in and they'd have to make a run for it.
Historians say Farmingdale's South Shore was perfect for alcohol distribution.
It was very easy to land foreign alcohol on the shore, and once it was on the island, there are a number of routes, whether you're looking at roads or the railroad, to get it into small villages like, say, Farmingdale.
This may look like your typical bookshelf, but it's actually a secret entrance to the bar. I'm here for the speakeasy.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Good thing I know the password. Daisy?
I believe she's downstairs.
The excitement in the room, this place just lights up.
In Farmingdale, Justine Ray, News 12 Long Island.